Morning. How's everybody doing?
Morning.
All right.
Andy, you guys have spent a lot of time and resources on both lines the last couple of years. Do you feel like this is the year that it coalesces, and how important is it that this is the year it coalesces?
Right. We put a lot of resources into these players and draft picks. We've signed in free agency as well, and we want to be strong there always. You know, you build through the line of scrimmage, you control the line of scrimmage, you got a chance to win a lot of games. You know, it starts up front. We want to be big, be strong. I said it my first year I got here, we want to be able to impose our will on people and be able to break them in the second half of games.
But are you better positioned to do that now, you
I think so, with the growth and development of what we have. The players that we brought in here, we're bigger on our defensive line. We're excited about our depth. We like our offensive line, the depth we have there. We acquired the guys. We've seen the growth out of some of our draft picks. So they got to continue to grow and continue to get better. And, you know, they're young. And we got a good mix of youth and veterans on defense as well. So, you know, we'll see how they do. We got another test coming up Friday night and next week, and we want to see continued growth and development from those offensive and defensive linemen.
On the topic of depth across the board, do you think the roster is deep enough that you can keep full quarterbacks if that's what Mike wants to do?
That'll play itself out, and that'll be up to Coach McCarthy. Omar, Art, they'll make that decision on that. We'll watch that play itself out. So we got another test, like I said, Friday night coming up, next week in Buffalo. We'll see how these guys do today. The one thing that's great about training camp is you learn something about your team every day, something new, and see how guys handle different situations. Our coaches are doing a great job of putting players in different situations, different circumstances, see how they handle it, see how they react, and see how they perform.
Andy, looking back to last year when you did draft Drew, what was the one thing that stood out to you that said this guy could be a starter in this league?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, you look at him, he's a big quarterback, right? He's got a strong arm. You go to practice at Penn State, you watch the ball, it jumps out of his hand. He could attack every part of the field with the arm power that he has. And they get to know him, the intelligence he has. That factored in with Coach McCarthy and his track record of developing quarterbacks. You know, personally, I saw firsthand in New Orleans when I was down there 26 years ago in 2000. Mike was our offensive coordinator. Frank Signetti was on the staff too, and I saw the work and the development they did with Jake Delhomme and how Jake grew and developed there. And, you know, he was able to leave in free agency and then watch him go to Carolina and how he, you know, elevated Carolina, took him to the Super Bowl. But Mike did a great job down there, I always thought, with the growth and the development of Jake Delhomme.
Will same way, or Will Howard? What stood out about him to you?
I think Will, just how he handled, you know, he picked himself off the mat after the Ohio State-Michigan game. You know, they lost at home, and, you know, he played his best football in the most important time of the year in the playoffs. He elevated his team, he elevated his play. The moment was never too big. He was composed, he was poised, much like we saw the other night in the 2-minute drill, where he executed that, you know, to perfection. So, you know, we'll see them play again this week. Excited to see those guys go out and handle a game situation. And, you know, it was a good start last week. We want to see them continue to grow and develop.
Yeah, you guys invested a lot in defensive line depth as well. You know, you guys heard a lot about Rubio and how well he's done in camp. Wyatt Black seems like it's a starter for you guys. What have you thought about the investment you guys to replenish the depth of your defensive line?
Right. Well, you know, the two places I've been where they've won Super Bowls is we had two waves come in. Philadelphia, Baltimore. We had two waves of defensive line, and it's nice to have that. It keeps your guys fresh so that when you get in December, January football, you're able to surge. You know, your guys are fresh. You can roll guys through, and you're able to surge into December, January football, and hopefully into the playoffs. So that's why we invest there. You know.
Andy, you saw a lot of moment when you drafted him out of Michigan. What might be different with him? What do you notice from him maybe any different this year than previous?
I think, you know, it's year 2 with Aaron, so the relationship, you can see the chemistry on the field. You guys have been up there to watch them. He's playing fast. He's playing with confidence. He's winning, and I think physically he's grown too. You know, he's looked stronger out there. So it's been a good start for him, and we want to see him continue to grow and develop, and watch him Friday night, watch him out here today and next week, and, you know, see him keep elevating. So, you know, we're excited where he's at, but we know we've got a long way to go.
You guys have a lot of players from Iowa on this roster. In other years it was Georgia or Ohio State. Is there something that keeps you going back to those schools year after year, coaches or strength coaches or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I think Kirby's smart in the program he runs. You've ever been out to practice they run there, and the success they've obviously had in that program. Like, you know, Dalen Everett, 2 years ago, I went to the Texas game, and they're playing there. It's a huge matchup, national game, and they went in there and won, and they physically imposed their will. And it started with Dalen Everett. I remember early in the game, he had a blitz off the edge, and he hit the quarterback, sack, force, fumble, turnover, and that really sparked it. He's always had a knack for playing big in big games, SEC championships. He played a lot of football there. But I think it's a lot of the way that they get guys in the program. You've come out of those programs, man, you're buying guys. You've been coached hard, you're physical, you're tough. Same way with Iowa. Coach Ferencz is one of the best to ever do it, all-time winningest coach in Big Ten history. They have a history there with linemen, with players, good football players that end up being good pros. So, it's just worked out that way, but, we acknowledge also the programs. And Notre Dame too. Coach Freeman's doing up there with that program, man. It's exciting. So, it factors in, guys that come out of those programs, they've been coached well, they've been coached hard. They're tough, they're usually disciplined in buying guys.
And as you found this over the years, where have you, at the end of training camp, at the end of the preseason, where are teams still hunting the most? Is it secondary? Is it O-line? Where do you find teams at the end of the preseason still scouring the most to help before the regular season starts?
We always look at it, and since I've been doing it, offensive line, people are looking for wide tight ends. So, it's a league that we invest in the offensive line, so we're heavy there, and we come in with good depth because I think offensive line, corners, defensive backs, they tend to suffer a lot of attrition during the year. Your depth is going to be tested. It's going to be tested at every position, but those in particular, you want to make sure you have numbers. It's like I think I said it one time, I heard it from Rex Ryan, if you have 2 corners, you need 3. If you have 3, you need 4. If you have 4, you need 5. So you can never have enough.
With Maxi Onachua, what do you remember about some early impressions of him? And when you have a player like that doesn't have a long history of playing football, how does that factor into your evaluation and the projection of what they might become?
That's a good question. So he's an interesting case. Last year for me, I went out to the school visit, and I saw them play TCU at home on a Friday night. I didn't go to Ireland. I did a doubleheader there, and then came back here and watched Pitt and Louisville to see the Bell kid, the receiver. But I think you notice first and foremost the size and the movement skill. You see the background of it. He's relatively new to football. He started over 30 games at Arizona State, but he's built different. He moves different, and you saw the composure he had in pass pro. Not being stressed, easy mover, the power he had. And then he goes down to the Senior Bowl, and he gets better every day. And we thought he was the best one down there. He competed. Again, it was just putting it all together, and you saw the ascension, and he kept rising and rising. And then we did the Zoom interview with him, myself and Coach Campen, and just really impressive guy to talk to. He loves the brotherhood of the offensive line, running the football, pass pro. He came across as a guy that you could connect with and a football lover. So, that was the process with him in short. And our scouts did a good job going in there, mining the information, the background on him. So, at the end of the day, we had a comfort level, and we're excited to draft him, excited to have him here.
Did he run into safety since the start of training camp? Would you say that's a position where you're still hoping for some depth to establish himself?
Yeah, I think you never want to be short, in a position. That's our job, is to make sure that our coaching staff, they have enough players. And, when you have depth, it breeds competition, and competition brings out the best. So, as we say, the cream rises to the top, and we'll see how that position goes. But it's a very spirited group. Bringing in Jaquan Brisker, he's brought a lot of energy to that group, and it's been contagious. And I think you've guys seen it in practice. They feed off one another, the DBs, the safeties. I mean, Jalen Ramsey hasn't been out there yet. The player he is and the energy and intensity he brings. So it's been good to see. It's a fun group. They're getting a lot of guys are getting a chance to play due to injuries, and we're watching them grow and develop. And coaches are doing a great job putting them in different situations and circumstances to see how they react to it.
Speaking of bringing energy, Landon Roberts brought that in the first 2 days, and what was the rationale when you bring in him in that position?
I think familiarity and the depth and more competition. And when he played here, the guy was a warrior for us. He played hurt, played physical, played downhill, and he just talking with him. We always stayed in touch. When he became a free agent, we stayed in touch, I should say. And just it was an opportunity. So credit to Omar, pulling the trigger on it, bring another guy in here, and having more depth at that position.
And Andy, you guys recently just signed your 4th member of the 2023 draft class. Obviously, I'm sure there's priority to look to sign Joey Porter Jr. Just how much, I guess, of an emphasis are you guys trying to put on that right now, knowing what the market is currently?
So, with regard to his contract situation, I'm going to defer to Omar. He's the point guy on all contract, extensions and issues along those lines. But, it's good. It's like we want to build through the draft, and, ideally you want to draft, develop, and re-sign. And, credit to Omar and Cole getting the deals done with, Keanu, Nick Herbig, and Darnell, to have those guys. And I think it's a good reflection on what we did there and our scouts and, player development, DY. And, the 3 things that go into it is, player acquisition is key, number 1, right? It's critical. But player development and coaching absolutely matter. Those are the 3 pillars to really, have a successful program. And I think you're seeing them to develop out here now and grow. And I think, there's some more guys coming down the road, hopefully, keep adding, keep layering those drafts and keep building and, building from within. So.
Andy, how much?
How much of an emphasis do you guys put into that development part as far as scouting players to see coachability on top of their raw skills, what they're doing in games, et cetera?
We put a lot of emphasis. It's football character. I mean, football character matters. You got to have the talent first and foremost, but then it's a football character, the ability to learn, ability to take criticism. One of the things I learned from Mr. Nunn when I was here a long time ago is, and it's universal, it's timeless. It's like, how do they handle criticism, right? Coachability. Can you take criticism? Let it roll. Listen to the message and get better from it, grow from it. So we think we've emphasized that. The players we brought in, their football character has been a big priority along with their talent. So we'll continue to do so.
Andy, you mentioned imposing your will. How does a fullback help you guys do that offensively? And has Riley been what you thought to this point?
Yeah, I think you're seeing Riley grow each day. The development. Like I was with Kyle Juszczyk in Baltimore, and I saw him grow and develop each day. Took him a while to learn it. He was a move guy as well at Harvard, and he'd have learned the blocking. And what is it, like 6, 7, 8 Pro Bowls later? So Riley's out here. He's smart, right? He's really smart. He's versatile. He's got a strong frame. He's shown up. I think he's getting a feel for it. Out of the fullback, he's versatile. Just seeing him at the Big Ten championship against Ohio State in the dirty work he did in that game, the conversion catches he made. He was a key part of their offensive success that night. So it's good, and hopefully he keeps getting better and better and better. So.